Welcome to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission on this Tuesday, March 1st. We are going to start out with a Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have Commissioner Randy Hughes do that. And if everybody could mute their mics while they do that.
Can I do it? There we go. Got it. Okay. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Flag came in handy.
Randy? It's nice that you have the flag right there. Annette, can we go ahead and get a roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Heath?
Here.
Commissioner Hughes?
Here.
Commissioner Carranza? Looks like she's not here yet. Commissioner Schmidt? Dennis?
Dennis?
He's muted.
It's unbelievable to mute me. I'm here.
Okay. Vice Chairperson Keene, I don't see her here yet. And Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Here.
So we have 5 present, 2 absent.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll see Commissioner Carranza and there she is. So you can count her in too.
Yes, Commissioner Carranza?
Here.
Here. Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
So
guys.
that's 6 present and 1 absent now.
Good to see you, Victoria. Can I get an approval of the agenda, please?
I'll make that motion, please.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Annette?
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Carranza,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Corey's here.
Vice Chairperson or Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
So that's 6-1 approved.
We'll recognize that Commissioner Keene has joined us.
Yes.
So we'll move into the public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for any persons wishing to address the commission on any matter that is not on the agenda over which we might have jurisdiction. If anybody would like to make any public comments, we have a couple attendees, and if you are on Zoom, if you would please raise your hand if you would like to speak on anything that's not currently on the agenda. And if you are on the phone, it is *9. Okay, it looks like we have no public comment at this time, so we'll go ahead and move to the consent calendar. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move such motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Heath,
Aye.
Commissioner Carranza. Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Keene.
We didn't hear you, Tori.
Tori, I think you're muted.
I saw your mic come off for a
There you
second.
go.
I saw that was a yes, but we still cannot hear you. So I'm going to mark you as a yes. And then Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
So motion passes 6-0, or I mean 7-0.
Great, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and move into our public hearings. For each of the following items, the public will be given the opportunity to speak after the staff report. The chair will open the public hearing and invite the applicant or applicant's representative to make any comments. Members of the public will be invited to provide testimony to the commission following the applicant. Speakers should state their name for the record and can address the commission for 3 minutes. After all public comments have been received, the public hearing will be closed and the commission will discuss the items and take appropriate actions. We'll start out with disclosures of ex parte. We'll start with Dennis.
Yes, I do have ex parte. Mr. Hoket, Kevin Hoket, from lives along Santa Cruz Road, called me last week and to talk about the project. And one of the things that he spoke about that he wishes that would have been discussed before at the Development Review Committee hearing we had was when rental equipment is being prepared for people to leave the property with, let's say, a chainsaw or a tractor, is whether, I mean, he was wondering if Home Depot would have to start those machineries up and kind of warm them up and show the people how to operate them. And that had not been discussed, and he wanted that to be brought up.
Well, you could bring that up during the discussion if he's not online. Jason, any ex parte?
I do have a question that might be pertinent. Is I just voted last session on the pretty much the same thing for the business across the street from my business on Traffic Way or via. I had a question as far as I know Tori was kind of on the border as far as how close she was in her residence, and I always thought it was a residence, but does it include businesses when you have the ability to vote on a project?
If that business has a potential to impact your business in a negative or positive way, or there is even an inkling of that potential, then yes, it's a conflict. But just because that business is coming in to a site where there may have been prior businesses, it may not always fit that criteria. So I don't believe that's always the case.
Yeah, I did not recuse myself because I didn't think it was going to be
Yeah,
either a
it's something
positive or
I
negative.
we probably should talk to my city attorney about it, but I didn't believe that to be a conflicting case. If it was a competing automotive repair business, I think I would be concerned about that.
Oh yeah.
Anywhere in the city for that matter. Or if it was something else that potentially enhanced your business or your property value, then I'd be concerned about that as well. So
Okay.
As a conflict.
All right, that was the only question I had, and that was for the last session. I don't
Yeah.
believe that this one has any relevance pertaining to whether it's going to affect my business at all. Okay, so no ex parte.
Randy, any ex parte on the Home Depot Center?
No ex parte.
Okay, Greg,
No ex parte.
Tori,
No ex parte.
Victoria.
No ex parte.
We did see this for DRC, but that's when I saw it last. So why don't we go ahead and have our staff report? Is Mariah going to give that, or who's giving that?
Lorelei we're gonna have the pleasure of hearing this from Lorelei. So
Great.
she is here tonight and she's got a presentation for us. There she is.
Hello, everybody.
Introducing Lorelei Kaplan.
Nice to see you
Good to
all.
see you, Lorelei.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm here this evening to present on AMND 210094, the Home Depot Tool Rental Center Expansion Project. Let me go ahead and cue up my PowerPoint and we can get going. Let's see here. Let's see if this is working. All right. Just one second, let me make sure I've got you all in presenter mode here. Oh, sure. Just making sure I'm sharing the right screen. Hang on there. Okay, thank you. Hang in there and okay, can you see my screen? Okay. All right, so tonight we are here to talk about the Home Depot Center. The applicant has proposed a project that includes, that is located at 905 El Camino Real. It's a 12-acre lot, zoned commercial park, CPK, and it is within the PD overlay zone. The project was originally approved in 1999 and under CUP 99011, and the project was built in 2001. It includes currently a 105,700 square foot Home Depot store with a 24,000 outdoor garden center space. The parking lot is currently fulfills and exceeds the city's parking standards and numbers, and the parking lot is currently being used for parking, sometimes outdoor seasonal sales, and outside there's also a permanent outdoor sales installation for sheds located on the northwest side of the site. On January 27th, this project was reviewed and endorsed by DRC with the conditions that exterior light will be fully shielded. I'm kind of paraphrasing, we'll come back to these later. And that a formal site plan and calendar for events and outdoor sales and display will be submitted. And finally, additional landscaping screening at the southwest corner to buffer the properties that are adjacent. We can kind of talk about those a little bit later with neighborhood compatibility. The proposal for the project is a 2,500 approximately tool rental center, which is going to include an expansion for rental of tools, anything from drills to very tall ladders to machinery. It also includes, in addition to the center that you'll be doing your rentals from and ordering your tools from, they will actually have a 1,300 square foot enclosure that's vinyl coated for tool storage. Outside, they're proposing 10 parking stalls to display some of the larger equipment, rental equipment such as man lifts and things like that. Truck rental, they're proposing 8 parking stalls for Home Depot rental truck parking that are about 12 to 26 foot vehicles. And those are so that customers who don't have the ability to bring their large appliance home, for example, can rent those as well. Here's an example, some visual examples of similar Home Depot tool rental centers. You can see the expansion, which is about 23 feet wide to the south, which is what our proposal here is going to show. This is also an example of the mesh enclosure that will house some of the tools, the outdoor storage stuff. Here's an interior vision kind of what's going on here in the tool rental center and some of the examples of the trailers that will probably have some larger equipment, the 10 trailers that will have larger equipment in the parking lot. The site plan from Home Depot, if this is the existing, yellow is the existing structure, the proposed tool rental center will propose this 2,520 square feet space. That's the indoor space that was shown in the picture. And here's the proposed tool enclosure of 1,329 square feet. Also, here's the location for the 10 proposed equipment rental spaces, as well as the 8 proposed truck rental spaces. So additionally, the building is actually going to be, the addition is going to be 20 foot high, and it'll extend the footprint to the south of the building attached to Home Depot by 23 feet. There's a pedestrian pathway that will go around the boundary of that with the emergency exit door here. There will not be entrance from this side. They'll still, customers will still continue to use the existing entrances and exits that are part of the original building. And in order to accommodate this pedestrian walkway, they're going to have to shift things about 3 feet down, including the existing parking spaces and 2 of the lights that are in the parking lot currently. So 3 feet to the south for just to maintain that clearance that is needed for fire safety and access. Generally, this is kind of the architecture you saw in the pictures. They are going to be matching the existing materials to the building that's currently there. And this is kind of our north elevation, east elevation, and west elevation. And now we can talk a little bit about neighborhood compatibility. So we have, we talked a little bit about some of the spaces and how things will shift 3 feet to the south here. Talked about these proposed rental spaces. These are up against the retaining wall. And as per their additional use permit, per their original use permit, they have to construct this building and operate it between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. So that's an enforceable, piece that will be really important, I'm sure, to adjacent properties. And as far as neighborhood compatibility, the adjacent property slopes upward away from the site. You can pull up some aerials that they basically, the residents, the next adjacent resident is approximately 300 feet away from the entrance of Home Depot. Acoustical analysis was completed by on 12/3/21, so back in December, and they ran kind of all of their models, including and anticipating the rental trucks and the equipment loading. The study concluded that the proposed project won't increase existing noise levels so long as there are 3 or less large equipment trailer rentals per hour, which, given that there's about 6 to 8 trucks at any given time, that's not anticipated to be exceeded. Existing outdoor storage and events. Currently, you can see existing photos of the sheds that are on display. There's also some trailers kind of tucked back here to just kind of display what Home Depot is currently selling. We've asked the applicant to tell us exactly how they plan to use the space or how they're currently using the space. And they've identified 15 spaces on the north side of the site adjacent to Staples for this kind of storage and display. Additionally, if you've ever been there during the holidays, you'll see that they have a adjacent and across the street from the garden center, across the drive aisle from the garden center, they do have Christmas tree sales. And I have seen in past years, long ways back, some tent sales for rugs. So we've actually asked the applicant to kind of tell us when these things will happen on an actual calendar and where and how many spaces they'll be using to just formalize that process, making sure that we're not causing any inadvertent conflicts. So the applicant reported that the events will take place from March 1st to July 31st and November 15th to December 31st. So it's probably garden sales, shed sales, and Christmas tree sales. Currently, there is no formalized schedule, so we would like to memorialize that in this process. And then the other piece of this is we wanted to talk about, it's come up over the years, is the vitality, the overall vitality of this commercial center. There's an opportunity here to talk about the economic development opportunities here. As you know, and may have seen from your visits here, that over the years, some of the pads that exist currently were never really fully developed. There have been some vacancies at some of the spaces, such as the store by the current Verizon store. This nail salon in the back is currently was closed and is looking for a tenant. We've been doing our part at the city to help kind of funnel new businesses to the center and to the leasing agent as well. So we do feel like it would really behoove Home Depot and the city and create more economic activity if we had more synergy of related businesses here. Currently, it's our understanding that there is a non-compete clause that we have not seen that's between Westar, the leasing agent, and landowner, as well as between Home Depot. And so this is a non-compete that says anything that within this range of businesses should not locate here, or it might inhibit business for Home Depot. We haven't read the details of it. What we'd like to do is talk with Home Depot corporate real estate and see how we can revisit that. We'd also, as the city, like to revisit the PD9 overlay zone. It was created 20 years ago, probably much like the non-compete clause. And I think that it might be time to revisit that to talk about market shifts, more flexibility, and really collaborate with the applicant to identify more areas and maybe broaden the types of uses. For example, a veterinary office came in and said they would like to locate here, and our PD9 overlay zone didn't allow for offices. And in the past, an artisan tile kind of mosaic specialty business wanted to come into the area, but it was kind of probably seen as a competition, even though they might be buying supplies and bringing more business to the area for home do it kind of uses. So those are the kind of things we want to really talk through and see if they really are inhibiting business or really adding more scale of economy, I guess is what you would say, critical mass. So here's an example. Everything in blue here are pads that have not been developed or are vacant. So as I understand, I think even some of these spaces out in front of Staples might be able to be used as a pad. I think I kind of seen that. So there's just opportunity here to do something, you know, to grow this area and make it more vibrant and compete more regionally for dollars against, you know, Lowe's or some of these other businesses in other communities adjacent to us. And with that, our recommendation as staff is to approve the amendment to the original conditional use permit to allow for the TRC addition, Tool Rental Center addition, with these conditions as follows. Exterior building lighting shall be fully shielded. Conditions from the previous use permit must remain valid back in the 2000 CUP 99011. We're asking the applicant to provide a photometric plan with building permit application, just so we can make sure that the lighting doesn't change and inhibit anything when it's shifted 3 feet to the south. We're asking them to provide a formal site plan that identifies locations of seasonal sales and events for outdoor storage and display, as well as a calendar. Applicant must add additional landscape screening at the southwest corner of the property to buffer visual impacts to the adjacent residential properties. And that was something that was discussed with Design Review Committee. We're asking that the applicant provide a non-compete clause lease agreement for the city for confidential conversation, so we can kind of initiate some collaboration here. We're asking that Home Depot and city staff will meet and discuss possible areas for modification to both the city's PD9 overlay zone and the Home Depot West Star lease agreement. We're looking to ask both parties to make a good faith effort to amend the respective documents to expand the list of allowed uses as appropriate. And finally, we're asking that all agreed modifications be made prior to issuance of a construction permit. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to the Planning Commission for any questions about this project. Yes, Dennis.
Could you identify the area in which the landscaping is going to be placed? You said the southwest corner. Could you show us a plan view?
You bet. So right here, if you look on an aerial, which I do have pulled up, let me see if I can get this aerial here. Google Maps. So here, if you can see my screen, this residence over here is the least screened. There is an open space buffer to the south of the building.
I'm not seeing anything.
Oh, let's see here. Let me stop my share and reshare my screen. How about now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So this is an open space buffer that has no residential. It's kind of a prohibited from development, but over here there is kind of a line of sight. There is some screening here, but we'd like to see if there's a way to beef up the buffer here to just continue to allow for more screening for light and onto these adjacent properties over here.
So is there any definition as to the amount of landscaping, or?
We would probably ask them to submit a proposal with their plan, and the staff would say whether or not it was adequate.
And so there would be a growth period that needs to be mature within X amount of time.
We could condition that, of course, yes.
I had noticed in the conditions that you had placed, there's nothing to deal with noise, and at least at the development review hearing, that was one of the major considerations by the neighbors, was the noise activity. And one of them was the delivery trucks parking along this side where this building is going to be, or addition is going to be, and they idle at that location. And another comment that had been made, I think by a lot of the neighbors, was that they weren't necessarily opposed to Home Depot, but what their experience has been that they're good neighbors for a short period of time, and then they're not good neighbors after a short period of time. And it seems to be a lot of it coincided with changes in management within the building, the store manager, let's say. And when we talked about this at the development review, I think there was information provided that there is a list of things for managers to do, but it seemed to me it was somewhat dependent on them to bone up on it on their own. Whereas it kind of seems to me it's like a new manager's being brought in. Corporate officers would say, okay, these are concerns that we deal with in Atascadero, and then what the neighbors have concerns for, and have more of a verbal presentation versus allowing for the managers to read things. But again, just a lot of complaints about not being a good neighbor all the time. So if conditions are not kept with, what can the city do to bring it back into order?
Well, that's a good question for Phil Dunsmore. I believe that it becomes a code enforcement issue if they're violating something that they've agreed upon. Dennis, to your comment about the list of things they need to do and managers are supposed to have, I understand from Home Depot that in the manager's office, that is kind of on a placard on the wall that says, here's the things we agreed to. And that's kind of was discussed at our last hearing.
Mhm.
And we also discussed the idling trucks. And because this is now a drive aisle and an entrance where things are happening, that we foresee and we understand that the activity will now be happening here. Or as you know, sometimes they do idle right over here.
Okay, in this scenario, under that, what happens if it doesn't? When the first
So I
truck
think,
decides
yeah,
to park along the side, a neighbor
yeah.
can complain. Are they fined? Are they threatened
So
that their use permits taken away?
that's an option
What
if they don't
results?
comply. So it's a constant effort when you have a juxtaposition of a large commercial warehouse store in the backyards of rural residential. We're set up for a consistent, continuous conflict. That's the unfortunate thing about this. And this dates back to 2001. The neighborhood, and Home Depot was sued by these neighbors. There was a settlement. I think they purchased some properties, and they did record some covenants, and some things were resolved. That doesn't mean it's all gone away now, but it's a constant thing that the city has to continue to monitor and regulate. And we do have provisions for noise. We do have provisions for light and glare. However, all that aside, our assumption here is that this application, this use permit application, is an opportunity for us as a city and as a neighborhood to improve things out there, to improve the relationship, to improve the conditions of which they're operating under, and to make sure that this amendment to this use permit covers any of those parameters and potential outcomes. So the question I think for the commission would be tonight: does this expansion of the building and the addition of this tool center exacerbate neighborhood impacts, or is it an opportunity to resolve existing neighborhood impacts that we already have?
Okay, well, with the acknowledgement of the conflict or the natural conflict that you have discussed, doesn't it seem like there should be an emphasis of trying to preserve the neighborhood character for the people who live in homes there? And I mean, for instance, we talked about landscaping in that one particular area. How about a 10-foot high retaining wall or a 10-foot high wall versus landscaping? I mean, there was a mention in the development review committee that Home Depot from other stores is experiencing a six-figure return from this center. And if there is a six-figure return coming from the center, then it seems to me that Home Depot might want to be more of a good neighbor and to try to live more peacefully with the people nearby.
Sure. Again, what we have to ask ourselves, is there a true connection or nexus to the impact of the addition of this center to requiring something along those lines? Or are we covering an issue that's already existing out there? That's more difficult to draw that nexus. So we have, when any condition we put on this, we truly have to find a relationship to a potential impact that they're creating. So I think some of those things might be on the table. A 10-foot wall may be beyond the scope of mitigating the project that's at hand, but that's more in line with mitigating the prior existing land use, which was already approved with a set of conditions. So I think that's where I want to leave it on guiding you in terms of decision making.
I understand what you're saying exactly, Phil. I appreciate it very much. But then again, Lorelei presented to us that part of the conditions that we are considering tonight on this particular project is a carryover of the previous conditions on the project that were placed back in 2010. So with that, could not some of those conditions be revisited, because again, they have not been effective as they stand at this point, again, with the neighbors. So that's I'm just offering that for people to consider within our commission. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Questions for Lorelei?
Saw a hand up for Victoria. Is that intentional?
Victoria?
Yes, I'm not sure if I have to like keep it like hello in the camera form or if I can lower it when someone sees it. Anyway, I appreciate Commissioner Schmidt's questions and also statements, mostly because, you know, when we look at the conditions, it seems that some of the conditions that the city wants to bring up is looking at those confidential conversations having with the agreements of the property and the property owner. And it seems to me that the neighbors don't care about that so much as the noise. So I am more interested now, after hearing Commissioner Schmidt, in looking at some of the noise buffering conditions that might be added for tonight's approval and amending that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
And one thing I should mention is we probably, at this point, before we go out to the public and the applicant, we should probably keep it to questions of staff.
Sure. I do
Before
have
we
a
start
question
talking
though.
about the conditions.
Yeah. For Lorelei, and within that, do you see that there's a specific way that we could look at that tonight? Because I know that it's very vague. And do you see a way for us to do that without having to basically postpone this item?
Sure. So, I mean, I'm wondering, and I'll pose this kind of to Phil as well, but if I look at, I can pull up the original agreement, and maybe we need to go to the original agreement that says is Home Depot, this was a condition of approval of their project it's called EXC 2002-0001. And so I can pull it up, and it's basically about the noise.
And just to answer the question as well, I mean, the permit's open tonight. The commission can suggest and put in place conditions that have a nexus to the project that's on the table. Absolutely. And if that means that this project is for sure going to, if it is going to increase noise, light, glare, we need to put in conditions that respond to those things. But I definitely go back to, again, cautioning you to say that we shouldn't be revisiting conditions because of the original store, but only for the addition. And I think staff is putting some of these things in place now by requiring that some of their outdoor land uses be relocated and that they have a whole site plan for those things, and it gets organized. So we've done some of that. And as well, we still have this unusual condition about, you know, the non-compete and vacancies, which is also kind of an interesting discussion item. So, but anyway, I think we should, again, I caution us to get too far into discussion and keep it to the questions before we go out to to the public and to the applicant.
Sure,
Unless
thank you.
we want to get into stuff. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and open the public hearing now and invite the applicant to address us.
Yes, Mariah, can you bring on Scott Mummer, who is has his hand up in the attendees?
Good evening,
Yes.
Scott Momer. I'm the site development coordinator for this project and for Home Depot. We spent a lot of time to get here tonight. Been working with staff and going over the prior project and the proposed project. One item that we looked into and couldn't find is any code violations or complaints that have been filed by the neighborhood in the last 24 months. Anyway, so that's a question because we don't have any on our record, but again, we're the 800-pound gorilla, so it's kind of hard to make sure that we have everything on file. So that's one item. On the landscaping, we're happy to put some landscaping in. Don't quite understand the visual from what point, what vantage point, what angle, what location. So we definitely need to understand that. And I think we can do that during the design phase of the project. The matter related to the uses, I did review this with the director of real estate and also our CEQA counsel, and it was concurred by our CEQA counsel that there is no real nexus to this, and this is a matter between two parties, and the city, at least in my 25 years of doing this for Home Depot, I've never had a city come in and want to discuss, nor will Home Depot discuss with the city that. What I mean by that, they're happy to discuss with the person that we have the contract with, but they also checked. And the last time Westar ever requested anything from Home Depot was when they wanted to put the hotel in. So we have not had any requests by Westar requesting any different uses or change of uses. If Westar wants to bring something to us, we can definitely discuss it. But again, that is a document between two parties. And there has to be something tangible on the table by the developer that he wants to put in John's Crab Shack, and we go over it and we look at it and say, okay, you can have John's Crab Shack, provided you have X, Y, and Z and operate between 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock, or whatever. But that is how it's typically handled, to have the dialogue with the city. It would have to be something based on what a developer is proposing. And again, we can certainly sit down and go over that with them. Related to the store, absolutely, store managers change. There's nothing that we can really do about that. That typically does happen, and that's why we have an operational placard that will get put up after this project, if it is approved, to put in the office so the store manager has what the requirements are. I know we're always looking for property and looking at release store or balanced trade area. So we are constantly evaluating the trade area there for possible alternates. So that ever comes to life, there could be always that opportunity to, build a new facility north of here and, relieve this store from all those violations, or if there are violations. With that, this proposed development is really not adding anything tangible to the site. We had a acoustical study done indicating that it doesn't generate anything above the code requirements for noise. We've adjusted the site plan to work in conjunction with all of our discussion over the last several months. With that said, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Before we get into questions, Dennis, I want to keep on with the public comment. And if Scott, if you could just stay on, and once we get into our discussion as the planning commission, we might have some more questions of you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If we have any attendees that would like to make any public comments at this time, if you would like to raise your hand on Zoom, and we'd be happy to have you address the planning commission. You have 3 minutes to do so. So is there any of the participants that would like to make a comment? Currently, I'm seeing 4 attendees and none of them are raising their hands yet. So. Okay, if that is the case, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the planning commission. And this will be an opportunity for the planning commission to ask questions of Scott Mortimer.
Hey, Commissioner Van Eyck.
Yes.
Did we give the public the, I guess, the prompt of the *9? Sometimes I think it's difficult sometimes if they don't know, if they're new to the Zoom.
Yeah, I don't see any call-in attendees.
Okay.
All of them
Okay.
have their names. So,
Okay, just checking.
Usually when I see the call-in attendees, I do say that.
Okay.
So,
All right, great.
all right, Dennis.
Yeah, there was, Laura Lee mentioned about the noise study that was done in December on the, for the property, and that about the no appreciable increases in noise, and Scott had mentioned the same thing. We haven't been able to see the study. I'll ask, I guess, a simple question. There's differences between front yard and rear yard noise levels as receptors, and backyards are more sensitive noise-wise than front yards. Did the noise study reflect that? Was one question. And then Lorelei had also mentioned about a possible pad in front of the Staples project. And I'm going to say I recall maybe 5 or 6 years ago, wasn't there a project for a fast food restaurant, a Wendy's or something to, did not get a permit to, that was approved by the planning commission for a use in that parking area that she identified in front of Staples?
Yes, there's been various proposals in that parking lot. There is actually another pad out there in that parking area that's right out by the entry road for Home Depot. And for some reason or another, none of those proposals have come forward. But I also, just while I'm talking about that, it's interesting that none of the proposals that were introduced to Westar have been brought up the chain to Home Depot for request. I mean, recently, the Artisan Tile Shop, they were interested in moving into the space adjacent to where the Verizon store is, and Westar told them that they couldn't locate there. So it sounds like they did that without even working with Home Depot to see if there was an opportunity. So maybe our discussion really needs to be with Westar, and instead of Home Depot. And when we put this condition on there, it's not a hard and fast condition that says you shall do this. It just opens a door to say, we want this center to be successful.
Mhm.
We want to talk about this, and this is our opportunity to talk about it. And so we want to get a contact with Home Depot Real Estate. We want to get, our relationship closer with Westar. We're not wanting to hold this use permit up for that issue, but we're wanting to use it as an opportunity to open the door to have these conversations. And, maybe we're talking to the wrong people. And, but we just find it bizarre that over 20 years, ads, even prior to the time that Trader Joe's was developing over in Templeton,
Anything
By
about
the way,
the
yeah.
noise receptors in the noise study? Again, I know positively that a front yard receptors have a higher level versus a rear yard.
Yeah.
Do we know about whether the study addressed rear yard versus front yard?
I don't know. We should.
The full study is attached to your design packet. It's in the staff report as an appendix, and it doesn't actually, I don't know that it specifies. Maybe we can ask the applicant whether or not they did something front yard or backyard as you're describing, but
I could answer that.
yes, thank you, Scott.
So the acoustical studies are based upon the point of the noise where it's being generated. So there was 2 locations evaluated: the location where the tool rental equipment is, and then a second alternate on the side. The acoustical study evaluates the noise within that radius, which includes the backyard, let alone the front yard, through the analysis.
Dennis, did you have any further questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, Tori?
Dennis, where did the guy live that you talked to?
I think he's, I think he lives on the same side of Santa Cruz Road as the Home Depot site is on, so the north side of Santa Cruz. I don't know exactly which property it is, but I do think he abuts the property at some points.
I guess, Phil, has anyone made complaints about the Home Depot to the city lately?
Yes. Oh, not lately. But I've met out on the site several times over the years to talk with neighbors and to talk to Home Depot management. Every time they change management, it seems like we need to go out there and make sure everyone's on the same page. Typically, the issue is about where they're doing their deliveries, where they're putting their stock. And so this addition actually will preclude them from doing deliveries in the problem area, could actually potentially reduce the noise. But the problem with this property is Home Depot is 20 feet or more lower than these backyards. And so no matter what you do for landscape or walls, you're not going to eliminate that situation because you got this natural amphitheater effect where noise travels up. It just does it, hits the slope and travels up into these backyards. So you probably have to do a 50-foot wall to really change that. And it's not really feasible. So that's just something to think about. But certainly, yeah, we go out there all the time to work with their management, work with the neighbors, and then things quiet down and it's great for a while. And then they get a new manager, it seems to come back, because they're not sure, they have to guide their truck deliveries, they have to guide their storage and the forklifts and where those operate. And sometimes these deliveries come in late at night, early morning hours, but then they should all be happening on the railroad track side of the building. And it seems like now they're doing that. And it seems like this addition will force that to happen.
Okay, I had other questions, but you actually ended up answering all of them because I wanted to know if there was a time that they were complaining about, particularly an early morning and late at night would make a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
those operating hours of 7 a.m. to 9, does that include that deliveries have to happen between those hours? And that was not, okay,
No, that's the store hours. It'd be nice if it did include that, but I don't know there's any way to control that. I think in many
Right.
stores it's a problem because these delivery trucks just come and they show up and, but maybe the Home Depot representative could talk to us about that. It's really how their management works, but it's typically difficult to control that.
But I also think if they didn't go around that backside and they went between Staples and Home Depot and around the back, the store itself would block a lot of that noise and take care of that issue. So that seems like putting the tool rental facility where they want to put it would help the noise because the delivery trucks would go around the other side. And
Exactly.
then the tool rentals would only happen between 7 and 9. And that's not going to be big noisy equipment, at weird hours, except for people loading things up maybe, early in the morning or bringing stuff back. Are those all good assumptions?
Those sound like accurate assumptions, yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm coming from when I think about this, this permit.
Mhm.
Any other questions, commissioners?
Yeah, Tori, I just want to reiterate, I think when we talk about noise studies, a lot of they're ambient noise. It's like I live near the freeway. I hear the freeway all the time, but it's a background noise for me. It's a consistent background noise. It's an ambient type feature where a lot of the complaints that a lot of people have are a truck backing up, beep, 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 beep at a certain time of day. And so that's not an ambient noise in itself. And the issue isn't necessarily with the neighbors, the delivery of the equipment, because it does happen behind the store. It's that the delivery trucks are parking along the side, and maybe the gentleman who drove all night and he's getting a little bit of sleep, and so he leaves the truck idling there while he's resting in his car. And so if Home Depot could tell its drivers, don't park your trucks here, go park it over somewhere else, then maybe that might resolve some of that issues.
Randy?
So something like that, I'm just kind of curious on. I mean, I don't really feel like there's an accurate way to really regulate that, though. I mean, whether
Why
someone
not?
has a beeper or whatnot, it just seems kind of like that's something that's really hard to enforce. I understand where your concerns coming from on there, but it seems like this is in many ways kind of resolving a lot. Tori kind of pointed out, like it's kind of going to be alleviating a lot of noise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of wondering. I mean, like I don't know. Is there maybe this is for Phil? Is there any situation where we've ever had something like that we've been able to kind of regulate and say, hey, like vehicles with beepers at this time, like no go? I'm just trying to understand, like, is there a resolve for Dennis's question?
There is an existing an existing resolution in place. So that was adopted way back in 2002. It was a condition of approval. And it specifically states that how Home Depot shall only operate forklifts and parking lot sweepers and things with OSHA required beeping limited to daytime hours between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. So if that is not happening, that is isolated from this project and would be more of a conversation between, the city, the neighbor that has an issue, and it needs to be a formalized, probably noise complaint or code enforcement issue as I see it.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be attached necessarily to the addition that we're talking about, but if they're not upholding what they said they would be doing, and I'll pull these up so you can see those,
Okay.
then this is the bigger issue. And I think most of these things, as I understand it, are kind of what we're talking about here. So specifically right here, Home Depot shall only accept deliveries between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. So now that I see this and have this in my hands, this is a condition of approval from 2002. for Home Depot's operation. This is probably when the first noise kind of issues came to light after the development of the project. They even went so far as to say Home Depot shall have special pneumatic tires on their, heavy shopping carts and all of these things. So these are things that were put into place to mitigate some of these issues. And if these are not happening, then this is the greater issue that is not related to this amendment to their CUP. This is
Okay, because the way I'm viewing this is it looks like this is more a debate over land use right here as far as whether they can conditionally do this, which it seems like it all falls in line. And if there were any additional studies that would be like impact studies, that would be stuff that would have to go through the city already from how I see it.
Yeah, the noise study did analyze all of the additions at the maximum kind of scenario. And it looks as though there are no noise impacts from this project over and beyond what's happening under the current condition. So that's, yeah.
Now, it appears to me that looking at those conditions, that they're already conditioned to do certain things that we're discussing right here. So it really is more of a kind of a code enforcement issue. I wonder if, and this is just maybe a suggestion, is in their operating manual, they're supposedly telling the truckers where to park, but could we require them to just put signs on that parking lot that's in between saying no idling of vehicles in this location or something like that?
I think that's a condition we could absolutely add. Like all deliveries and idling stays to the east side of the building or north side of the building.
I think that would take care of most of the noise issues. It looks like they're already conditioned to do all the things that we're thinking about, and it's more of an issue of code enforcement. My opinion is that this rental center will probably eliminate a lot of the noise issues that they've been happening in the past.
Okay, I will add that. I'm adding that so you can all see what I'm doing to Planning Commission action, condition that all, I guess we'll say long bed truck deliver trucks idle. I guess do not idle, yeah. I see. Is there anything else we should be covering with action?
This is Scott. So there's a law in California that the maximum idling time for a truck is 5 minutes. Just FYI. And then regarding OSHA, I actually went to OSHA and attempted to have beepers not be able to be turned off on forklifts and trucks and got denied.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I did it for this store. I did it for Home Depot for various issues throughout the state, because beepers are always an issue no matter who the retailer is. But we attempted to get that beepers to have an on-off button on the unit, but they said no.
Yeah, I'm sure OSHA would say no go to that. However, I'm thinking that even the beepers aren't an issue if it's done during more normal business hours, and if they're abiding by the conditions of approval, I mean the previous conditions, then they shouldn't be having deliveries outside of store hours. I look from those conditions. Is that correct, Lorelei? Is that what it suggested?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I was listening, but I
On
have to turn up my volume.
the conditions that you had on previously, didn't it have a delivery times?
Yes, it does. During business hours, 7 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Yeah.
But it states.
Yeah.
So it sounds like some of the conflicts of the past is when that has been broken.
Are forklifts delivery? Are they just normal operation of pulling things off of delivery trucks and dropping them on to a a storage point where they then can be brought into a store or brought into the store directly.
This condition says Home Depot shall only accept deliveries between 7 AM and 9 PM, as well as operation of these other things must be limited to 7 AM and 9 PM.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from any of our commissioners? Victoria, I see your hand's still up here.
Yeah, basically, are those old conditions of approval that are a compliance issue, are those written into the current manager's manual as something to uphold? That's a question I have.
Great question for our applicant.
Mhm.
Is this the placard that you mentioned, Mr. Momer, that is in the manager's office?
Correct. So since the placards we started doing, I don't know whether it was 4 or 5 years ago. And so anytime there's a change to a store or a request or even a code violation, then we produce the new stores are automatically produced. So I'm not saying this store has one in it now, but it will have one in it when we get done with this project that we're doing, because part of our takeaway is that we produce the placard, we laminate it, we put it to their wall where they can't remove it. We take a picture of it, and then we put it on the corporate website under OSPRs, where that document is there, plus a picture showing it was posted and the store manager had it. Seems like a lot of things, but it's kind of like raising children. We got one in the room tonight. You have to train them and give them the information, so they will have it.
So, yeah, I wonder if one of the conditions of approval is that we get that same photo, because it seems like an easy enough thing that if you have to duplicate it, that would be an easy job.
Yeah, we're happy to share it with you and review it. If you find an oversight with it, or
I think it would
additional
just help
wording.
resolve some of
Yeah.
the conflicts that we're seeing associated with this. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I think this is overall a great addition for our entire community. And just with the history and the long-term implications of code enforcement, I think it would just enhance as far as, yes, we need to do some code enforcement, it might seem, or we need to, instruct some of the neighbors that we've talked to on a personal or public basis, to file complaints if they have that. But yeah, just starting at the top of making sure that those are reiterated to the manager in their new placard, that seems like a baseline thing that we could do.
On that, Lorelai, can we add a condition to that the applicant submit a copy of that to time of building permit
Submit.
prior to final?
Must submit prior to final. The list, I guess, would we say?
Those
Conditions
items
of-
that you read in the original condition of approval
Yeah.
that
Condition.
aren't being met, it seems.
Okay. Submit, and then I think it says,
Submit a copy of the list, yeah.
got it.
Maybe even just a photo that's showing that they've been posted in the manager's office. And at least then we all know
Scott's
that
analogy is great.
it's been done, so.
Great. Perfect. Any other things we'd like to add before we?
Can I see the list of recommendations from the staff again?
Yeah, of course, yes. So these were the things we had put in initially. Downward lighting, upholding all of the conditions from previously that we were just looking at, providing a photometric plan for the shifting of the lights to the south. A formal site plan for seasonal sales, including a calendar, adding landscaping at the southwest corner to help with the visual impacts from the adjacent properties that had mentioned they were affected, providing a non-compete clause for conversation if possible, having that conversation about modifying the PD overlay zone and possible Westar agreement between Home Depot and Westar. Having a conversation and making a good faith effort to amend these to allow for more flexibility with tenants, and then any agreed modifications being made prior to construction permit.
Lorelei, based on the discussions or the comments from the applicant and Phil's discussion about whether or not the number 6 and 7, we can actually even do that. Maybe the discussion should be instead with North Star or Westar, and that we don't, if Home Depot doesn't have much say in that.
I think we can be flexible by the way we've worded it. So I have reached out to Westar in the past and said, hey, there's a tenant that would like to locate here. And they said, oh, Home Depot won't allow us to do that. So I think it's just a matter of initiating the conversation and bringing the parties who are willing to talk and saying, look, here's 2 instances. How can we, resolve this issue so that everyone wins and we have more vitality at this northern end of the city? So I think that's the intent. And I think this is worded in a way where we're making a good faith effort to have this conversation. So maybe what I can do is modify this to say all parties make a good faith effort or something like that. Maybe I'll do something like that.
I also get the intent of that, but I guess attaching it to this project seems weird to me.
Okay.
I mean, I would hate for it to only be able to happen because like attached to this project. I mean, maybe it's just like the idealist in me, but maybe now that Mr. Momar is aware of this, of what's going on, perhaps the conversation will happen without it being attached to the project, because again, I like the intent and I think that that's something that needs to happen. Just attaching it to the project, I don't know if I personally like that. I don't know if anyone else agrees with me. I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Now, do keep in mind, it's these aren't mandatory. We did put the word should in there, and we did say, it's a suggestion. So this is a way to bring it into writing that, we're interested in having these conversations with the property owners and the other, leaseholders. So, but yeah, it's completely up to the planning commission and what you want to do with that. It is kind of awkward. It is kind of unusual, but we saw this as an opportunity to
So maybe it's a
We've
question
talked
for
about.
Mr. Momer. Like, is that something that the Home Depot would be open to having that discussion with the city and Westar? I mean, would you help precipitate that meeting to happen? Because I think, as a business person, it's better for everyone to have a full center. And I apologize for all the background noise. It's dinner time and I'm at my kitchen table. But it's better for everyone to have a full center so that we have more people coming in. So is that something that you're open to, or do we need to put it in this project to enforce the importance of it?
So, I've been working with Home Depot for 25 years, and they are a great corporation, and they reply and answer questions that need to be answered. In the case of a development agreement, I could say that Home Depot is not going to have a legal discussion with Westar and the city on their development agreement, because that's a legal document and attorneys get involved, and we have them on every shopping center where we have another user in the center. So they're pretty common and it's boilerplate. There's really not much to it. Do we edit them? Yes, when there are circumstances. So if a developer or another person within the center or even a city needs something from Home Depot or wants something, there is a form. It's even on the website of fill it out, answer the question, and we get back. I personally probably deal with 20 to 50 per month. And it could be a right-of-way taking by a city. It could be a land use issue. And that's just me. And I'm just one person, of this huge corporation. So you can imagine the numbers that they get. But they do respond to them, every one of them. And they don't walk away from it. So would Home Depot be willing to review with Westar if they made a formal application to request it, but they're not going to sit down with another third party to rewrite a DA? We spend, I'm working on one right now, a development agreement, and nothing to do with other users, but we're probably on 3 months trying to agree on the development agreement. So, it just doesn't happen overnight on the first draft anyway. So I guess the takeaway here is Home Depot's more than willing to talk to Westar. They just need to submit and ask what they want. And sometimes it's easy. Sometimes there has to be some condition that comes with it. I can guarantee you, if we ask a developer for something, the first thing they're going to do 9.9 times out of 10, we want more money. So you get my drift here of it. They're workable. They're a great company. It just has to follow the program, and it happens.
And so Westar was the developer. Does Home Depot own the property, or does Westar own the property?
We own our parcel.
Okay. And Westar owns the rest. Is that right, Phil?
Yes, and so, yeah, they own the rest, and so the non-compete envelops the rest, including all the way out to the Spring Hill Suites. So
Okay.
as part of the condition of purchasing and building on that parcel owned by Westar at the time, they recorded the non-compete on the rest of the remaining surrounding parcels, I believe.
But they recorded it only with Westar because the city can't get a copy. Like didn't record it with the county or the city.
No, it's not
obviously.
with the city or the county. It's private between Westar. I'm just gonna say it frankly, the city doesn't like these things because it's someone controlling the land use. We write a general
Right.
plan. We spend years doing it. We write zoning. We understand what land uses should go where. And then a private company comes in and says, no, you're not going to do that. We're going to take your rights away. Walmart did the same.
Yeah. So what does the overlay do for that parcel? I'm sorry, I'm talking over you, Randy. Okay. So what did that overlay do? What does the overlay do for that piece of land? Like, does it say what can go there? And that's why the vet office couldn't go there because offices weren't part of that overlay?
Yeah, so there's a city overlay zone that's different than what we're
Okay.
talking about. There's a city uses for all of those sites because of the fact that it was a unique, situation over there. And so the city wanted to craft a unique set of land uses. And at the time, 20 years ago, that was a good idea. Now things have changed a little bit, and we want to revisit that PD. But that's separate from the discussion here about the non-compete clause. I mean, we may put things in there that we want to have there in that PD, and it's not going to matter because, the agreement between Westar and Home Depot won't allow for it anyway. So.
Okay,
Anyway,
so
we
can't just change the PD, and that would not overwrite the non-compete
Non-compete.
clause.
No, that's the concern. So you've got private companies controlling our public land use designations.
Okay.
So yeah, that is the overall concern.
I like to add to that just because I have hate and discontent on HOAs that do the same thing.
Mhm.
Absolutely. They do the same thing, and it's business. I understand it. It's totally a business. And you know,
And so it's Westar's duty when the city goes to Westar and says, hey, this artisan tile shop wants to go here. It's Westar's duty to either read the non-compete or go to Home Depot and say, hey, would you mind this tile shop coming here? And so it's like up to them whether
yeah,
well, they're supposed to contact Home Depot about it, not just make the judgment. Yes?
that
Ideally?
seems like what it's like to me. And I don't know if they've been
Okay.
doing that because we've been referring a lot of interesting land uses over there. And it sounds like they haven't been making it over to the discussion because they get cut off before that happens. So maybe Westar is pretty confident and comfortable with what they think can get approved over there. So
Okay. And Mr. Momer, you're saying that Home Depot's not going to reach out to Westar and be like, yo, does anybody want to come in here? They would wait for Westar to contact them
Oh, absolutely.
through the proper channels.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for answering all of my questions. This was a lovely learning experience.
No problem.
Randy, you had your hand up for a little bit? Did you? have anything?
Actually, no, Phil kind of hit on it as far as the ability for a private to try to designate demands at that. So you guys had that, but I did have one other thing that did cross my mind. I'm kind of in line with Tori on, in good faith, like wanting things to happen, but being able to put them in the reports kind of different. So like example, if we do push, a huge amount on the noise ordinance, we already kind of have precedent that they already signed up for, right? And it's like a two-way street. There may or may not be loud agricultural sounds in that area, which then Home Depot could say, hey, our parcel also doesn't want to hear noise from A, B, and C. So this is something where hopefully all parties can understand that we need to play nice. But actually, Phil did a great job breaking down that last topic. So thank you for getting into the legal aspects on that.
Victoria, you still have your hand up. Do you have any more comments?
Yeah, actually, I just raised it again. I was
Okay.
curious if we as a commission, because it seems like, city staff really does want to have this good faith conversation, regardless if it makes it into the conditions tonight. I'm just curious, like, is this an issue where us as a commission could request of staff time to follow up with Westpac and request that they fill out a form for Home Depot? Because that's what it seems like needs to happen in order for it to actually happen, and not just, they should seek a conversation. It's like, no, we know the format now. So can the commission just request staff to do that?
yeah, you can do that. The thing is, I think what Home Depot is saying is you need to have a viable user on
Right,
board,
and
someone
that's
who's
what I'm
interested in
saying too.
space. Right.
Right.
What's that?
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying too, is that Westpac be the one that fills out the form, but requesting that city staff contact Westpac representative.
Oh, yeah,
And-
Westar, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, Westar, yeah.
And so basically, I don't think we would go there unless we had a tenant that wanted to move in, that they wanted to vet through the process. Right now, we don't have a tenant that's interested
So
in.
you want an actual
building.
example, but not in general looking at the vision for that center? Because I thought that that's what this was all about.
Well, I guess we could do it on a more general fashion. So I guess we could request that, hey,
That's what
Westar,
it
could
seems
you
like
open
this
the
is.
door? Yeah, I mean, I suppose
Yeah,
we could
I would be a
do
proponent
that.
of
But-
asking staff.
And
for
that's
that.
kind of separate maybe from this use permit, to go do
I think the whole
that
thing is.
on a separate motion, the commission
Mhm.
to go work
Yeah,
on
so
this.
I guess that's what I'm trying to distill the discussion, and I do see where Commissioner Keen's coming from and what Schmidt and Hughes
Yeah.
have said about it too. And so it's not that that's not important, but it's almost like the noise has more nexus of an issue than this center thing regarding so
Sure.
it seems like it's a separate motion that I'd be happy to make of staff time. It seems like it's gonna be less time to do it that way than maybe saying we should have a conversation, and maybe you follow up channels with Home Depot and you get nowhere because you didn't fill out the form through a client that is the direct person that they would talk to. Okay, that's all for me.
Okay, thank you. Is anybody interested in offering a motion?
I am totally interested in a motion.
Uh,
Can I
you like-
see the motion thingy again?
Oh,
Great terminology.
I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. There are a lot of thingies and whatchamacallits in this house.
I just love the brevity. It's great.
So,
I try to bring it to every meeting because otherwise, you know, we get really serious. Okay,
So here's the current recommendation. We can modify this as you all see fit.
okay, and the TRC is the Tool Rental Center?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
yeah.
So I move to approve the amendment to the original CUP to allow for the Tool Rental Center addition with the following conditions listed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9.
Okay. So you're proposing, let's see here.
6, 7, and 8 to be
Right
a
there.
separate motion. Yes. And the other actions that we listed on the next slide.
Yes, we need those.
Did
Yeah,
she mean
the
to cross
no-
out 9 there?
Oh, no, don't cross out 9.
Yeah, I think she crossed out 9 too. It
Okay.
looked like.
And then, oh no,
Okay, never mind.
she did it perfect. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
good
So,
enough.
and then no idling along the south side of the building, and then, a copy of the picture.
Perfect.
Did I do that right, Annette?
Annette, are you?
I think she was trying to talk, but I
Where
didn't
is
hear
Annette?
her.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Did I do that right? Did you get all that?
I got all that.
Okay,
Yes. I
fabulous.
saw what you struck out and then added the 2 actions about the idling and the submitting a copy of the placard.
Second that motion.
Great, thank you. Annette, roll call on this?
Okay, Vice Chairperson King,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Carranza,
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Before I vote, I'd like to comment, please, to let Home Depot know that I agree with, concur with what Victoria had said, and I think every other commissioner and representative of the city, that Home Depot has been real positive for our community. I know personally that they support nonprofits extremely well by donating materials for projects that some of them take on, let's say, to improve women housing for families without homes and stuff like that in our community. So they are great neighbors in that context. And I'd like to just reiterate that even the neighbors along Santa Cruz, their complaints are, again, off and on, because there are good times when Home Depot is a great neighbor, but then there's times when it goes south for a period of time. I appreciate Scott's comments about the placard that he put up. One thing I didn't hear in that is that it was mandatory to read the placard by the managers. It's put up and placed there, but there's nothing that says anyone has to even look at it. But that is, as he also said, we all have children, and we know sometimes we have to tell them more than we need to. We make assumptions that they'll carry on and do things. So with that, I am very supportive of the project, and I'm hoping that Home Depot will work at being a good neighbor 100% of the time, and that will help the neighbors very much. So thank you.
Is that a yes vote?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes 7-0.
Does somebody want to make a motion regarding the other items?
I can. I'm just gonna maybe need a little help because I think what I would do is just make a motion that staff talk to Westar and have them request that they have them fill out a form to bring this greater issue up of the non-compete clause and file that with Home Depot to have the conversation that they look into not having that. That's the best I can do.
Phil,
And
does that make
also
sense, or-
maybe a
Yeah,
conversation
Commissioner
with the city attorney about getting the non-compete clause, if that's something that we can legally ask for without like subpoenaing stuff, because that's never fun.
Right. Well, again, I think it's the city like requesting that staff have that conversation with Westar
yeah,
in order to then
yeah.
talk to Home Depot. So we actually wouldn't request that's directly from Home Depot, but have that conversation with Westar as the primary stakeholder.
Right.
But with us having investment in the community as a whole. Help on this one a little bit, but I know where I want to go with this.
Staff to complete an application for submittal to Home Depot to modify the agreement.
I don't know about that wording. I think it's,
no, I don't think it's that.
I think we
Phil,
just
you
want
were
to
gonna
start
say
having, we're gonna have a formal conversation with Westar regarding potential land uses that can provide synergy for the Home Depot Center. So that we can amend our.
Physically asking them to request something to Home Depot because we
Exactly.
know that's
So
the format.
we need to amend we're amending our general plan right now anyway. And we need to amend the PD for this center. So at the same time, as part of that process, we want to invite Westar and Home Depot to the table, right? So.
Yep.
And so we don't need to word this perfectly. We understand your motion, and I think we can generally take that down. I guess unless Annette needs a formal write-up on it.
Well, I would like some formal write-up because to your to what you said, Phil, earlier, just getting something in writing to open the door is better than just saying, oh, let's take it off because it looks weird on this application. And I guess what I really signed up to be on this commission for was to do more than just talk about things and hopefully
I like
finding
number 10
some kind of
where that's going.
Yeah.
Staff shall formally meet with Westar to request they submit an official request to Home Depot to
review and amend, review and or amend.
Review and amend the non-compete agreement to help
I like synergy.
provide
I like
additional
that word.
occupancy and synergy to the shopping center.
Yeah.
And then can we name the shopping center?
To the Home Depot and Spring Hill Suites shopping center.
Yeah, there we go. Yep, I think that's it.
Just to agree.
And we can't force anybody to do anything, but at least we can force the door to be open and talk about it.
And at least people will see that we've made this motion and we're trying.
That's what I'm actually getting at.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's our mayor that has requested we do this.
Okay.
So Heather Moreno asked that we bring this topic up.
So she finds this essential. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll make the motion and I need to read that into the record.
Is 6, 7, 8, 10?
Well, I don't know if all those are in there, or is it
no.
just number 10?
I think just 10.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's just 10 and I'm looking to see if there's anything that needs to be added. Maybe the amend the non-compete. Well, could you add that back, the 6, 7, 8, 9, just so I can look at the language?
Sure.
The non-compete clause / lease agreement, maybe you can add that in 10. The non-compete. Yeah, I'm just thinking the wording, why not just keep what y'all did and distill it down to one. Possible areas for modification to both the city's PD overlay. I liked what Phil said about looking at that in general in light of us doing the general plan. So the city's PD 9 overlay zone and West Star lease agreement.
So shall I talk about the general plan process in this, or integrating into the general plan process?
Yeah, I think so. Because that opens it up for wanting them as stakeholders to be a part of this general plan update.
Yep, there we go.
I think that's yeah. If we
And
can
then
put that
maybe
in.
add West Star into number 7, so West Star, Home Depot, and city staff, or any combination thereof. Just those are the 3 parties that we want.
Yep.
To be included with the invitation, rather.
Yeah, and I like that that's 2 different things in that, because it seems like 10 is a specific agreement there, and then 7 is more of in general, the general plan update process. So, okay.
Are we striking 6 and 8?
I would. Does any commissioner want to speak on any of that? 6 or 8? Okay. See none.
Well, I had a real quick
Oh,
question. I'm
Yeah.
fighting a raging migraine right now, so bear with me.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. Times 200. I get that.
Oh, yeah. So it looks as though the good faith effort is being struck and is now becoming a mandatory condition. This is not a condition of the project. This is a separate action, but it looks like we're kind of putting more teeth into it, saying this is a separate action. We're requesting you to be forced to do this.
We're
I'm kind of-
basically, as commissioners, the way I see it, requesting that staff do this. And West Star and Home Depot can totally not respond.
Exactly.
But we as commissioners are requesting staff to do this with staff time. And we're
Yeah,
putting
they're not-
teeth on it in that way.
Yeah,
I
they're
just
not-
I just like the good faith portion of me.
Yeah, because Home Depot or West Star are not going to be legally bound to do anything, but we're basically making it vocal and putting it into an action to say that we really
Yes.
want to open this door for
Yep.
a mutual conversation, because a successful center here is going to be good for everybody, especially Home Depot, if we don't have
Absolutely.
vacancies that continue out there.
And if they deny, if they are reluctant to speak with the city, it's not good PR. Okay. Good.
Okay.
you.
Yeah, no, great.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you,
Somebody
Victoria.
wanna-
Excellent job. Excellent
Somebody
job.
want to
Thank you.
second that motion? And
I will
Yeah.
second that.
Okay.
Victoria's bringing it home.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Girl power.
Annette?
There we
Oh,
go.
and-
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Carranza,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Keen,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to Scott for bearing with us, and good luck on your rental properties. Look forward to being able to rent some equipment there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Can we, let's see, we have one more item. Can we take a 5-minute break? We'll take a 5-minute break. It is 7:35, we'll say, and so we're going to come back at 7:40 with the next item number 3.
Now, keep in mind that next item is going to be just a continuance, so we're not going to get
Oh,
into
it
it.
is?
But yeah,
Oh, well. Maybe we
but it's
better
up to
just
you.
get
Take a
into
break.
it. No, let's just get over with.
Okay.
Oh, Jeff's had enough of us.
We love you too, Jeff.
so we'll go ahead and move on to item number 3, for the zone change to the 95 or 5901 East Mall. And this is going to be a continued item.
Yes, we
Phil,
do
you
not have this item ready for you tonight. We're going to continue it to a date certain to March 15th. This involves the properties that surround Centennial Plaza, where we recently demolished the yellow structure right next to the city hall there on the pathway to the creek. And what we're doing is going through several stages to prepare those properties to be put into a surplus status and to be sold. And part of that process is we want to put a plan development on them to guide development in the future. And this is another stage in that process. We're going to bring that back to you because we still have to do some more engaging with some adjacent property owners that were interested about it. So we weren't quite ready, but we'll be ready to bring that to you on the 15th. And so we're just requesting that the commission continue that to date certain.
Et tu, Brute.
Right, so does that need a motion or anything to?
I think we need to do that, yeah.
Okay, can we have a motion to move that to date certain?
Motion to extend or continue.
To date certain of March 15th, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Can I get a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Annette?
Yes. Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Carranza,
Yes.
Commissioner Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Key,
Yes.
Chairperson Vanden Eyck.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to continue.
Great, thank you. Phil, do you have a director's report for us?
Yeah, I think I just told you what you're going to have on your next agenda. So on the 15th. So I won't elaborate any further on that. But I'm trying to see, Annette, do we have anything else on that agenda? I forget.
Yeah, we do. We have the El Centro project and the Brown Butter Cookie Company.
That's right. So Brown Butter Cookies is moving into Atascadero. They're going to
We
be
get
bringing
samples. We get samples, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
They're going to be just doing production. No, it's not going to be their retail sales.
Moving
I
They're
mean,
gonna
I'm not
Champion.
saying that would help them move in, but I'm not saying it wouldn't.
Moving
So
into
we'll
the
talk-
Champions building?
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk to them at our next meeting. And then the other one is just it's a strange thing. It's a little tiny plan development where the plan development is really restrictive on accessory structures. And this one gentleman wants to build an accessory structure, and we actually have to amend the plan development to allow that to happen. So real simple, but we're doing that. So that's what's happening on your next agenda. But otherwise, I'm happy to answer any other questions you have about what's happening in the community.
SB9.
Oh, yeah, that SB9. We'll be bringing that to you soon. I think it's probably going to be.
Phil,
Oh,
we
wait.
lost you,
You
Phil.
froze there, Phil. We didn't hear you.
I did. Uh-oh, I'm freezing. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, I'm unstable. I'm going to turn off my video because it's unstable. All right. So the first hearing in April, we'll be looking at SB9 and accessory dwelling units. All right. No?
Oh, was that all you had to say?
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have a question for Phil.
Yes,
Go ahead,
Victoria.
Phil.
Oh, okay. There's a delay. One is regarding, and I don't know if this is maybe something that you can include in director's report for the next meeting. But I had been asked a question in the community around the climate action plan. I know that we, at this point, I think when we reviewed a slideshow in the beginning of my term as commissioner, it was some emissions and greenhouse gas numbers that we looked at, but we really didn't have any plan to update or have a climate action plan. And we're focusing on the general plan, but I was curious where that was going as far as the timeline.
We have an adopted climate action plan. It was done a few years ago before I came on board. So I think it was done in 2014. it needs updating now again.
Right.
After we have our greenhouse gas emission totals that we're done. And we're continuing to work on that now that our city is now part of the Central Coast Energy. God, why did I forget the name of it? You know, the city council just decided to
Community
do that.
Choice Energy.
Community Choice Energy, thank you. We will have more of an opportunity to get some free assistance to do our greenhouse gas inventory and do a little more work on that. So it also has to be done as part of our general plan update because it folds into the entire environmental analysis for what we assume for growth over the next 20 years.
Right.
So it will be done as part of
okay.
that.
Is that something we're going to be doing with staff? Is it an RFP process? Is it an ad hoc committee that you're looking for? I'm just curious where we're going with that to get that done.
I don't know the details of that yet. I know right
Okay.
now we're still working on getting our contract finalized for our general plan update to include all these goodies. And you'll be seeing some more of that here soon.
Sure.
But that's
Okay.
a good topic to bring up.
Is that something we have to agendize, or is that just something you could bring up more in the director's report with more
I can bring you
commentary?
some
or-
more information in my next
Okay.
director's report. So noted on that you'll want some information where we are with that.
The cap.
We
Okay,
meet,
great.
yeah, we meet every month or two with the Air Pollution Control District and SLOCOG to talk
Mhm.
about that. In particular, I missed the last meeting. I'll have to talk to my team and see where we are with that. Kelly probably has a better handle on that than I do, so I'm going to bring her in to talk about that.
Oh, okay. She'll be
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, tell her Victoria asked her.
I will. I know.
Okay.
That's
All right, thanks.
yeah.
Phil.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Phil, and everything. Thank you, everyone, for participating in our planning commission meeting. We will adjourn until March 15th, and we'll see you again then.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
Thank you for
Happy
your
weekend.
patience.
Good talk,
with me,
Jason.
Everybody.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.